You're listening to All Country News.
You're a Georgia boy. Thoughts on Georgia football? What games are you excited about? What games are you nervous about? Are you a Georgia football fan? I guess I did just assume.
So I actually went to Alabama, funny enough.
Okay, so let's talk about it. So
So
you
I'm
really don't give a
excited.
crap about Georgia
Yeah.
football. You're excited about Alabama. Talk to me about
Yeah.
that.
I'm excited about this next weekend will be one hell of a game. I mean, we play Georgia in Bryant-Denny, which thank God it's in Bryant-Denny. I don't know. Honestly, they have Georgia favored by 2.5 right now, which I like because I think that lights a fire under the boys. So hopefully we get a little butthurt by that and play better. But Alabama and Georgia, I will say, are both notorious for playing to their competition. So I mean, the one thing that I feel like we have over Georgia, well, a couple things, but we have a better quarterback. I mean, their quarterback's great, but Milroe can throw a deep ball and run. And the deep ball is great because Georgia's secondary is the weakest people they have on the field. Um, but I think that, like, if you look at the Georgia Kentucky game, like, Georgia should have, like, came back towards the end, and they didn't. It stayed, like, they were losing until what, like, the middle of the third quarter. Like, it was, yeah. But Alabama, everyone keeps saying, well, look how they played against Southern Florida. Southern Florida has a ranked defense. Their quarterback's a monster, but we also then put 4 touchdowns on them in the fourth quarter. Granted, I wish we would have done it sooner, but we still did it, and Georgia did it. So I think that says a little something. But yeah, regardless, it'll be a good game. If we lose, it's not going to be as bad as Georgia loses because Georgia still has to play Texas, Missouri on the road, and there's some Tennessee on the road. So it'll hurt their schedule. I think it'll hurt them a lot more if they lose than us.
You're a lot bigger football fan than I had expected.
Well, it's funny because I didn't grow up. I never played a down of football in my life.
Okay, I was about to ask. I'm
Yeah.
like, you know an awful lot. I thought for a girl, I knew an awful lot. I was like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, I didn't play down of football in my life. I didn't even like football growing up. Like I enjoyed going to high school games,
Yeah.
but never really enjoyed college football. I literally in my closet, I had like Walmart used to sell these like $5 polos, and it was like every SEC school. And I had pretty much every single one in my closet. And depending on whoever's house I was going over to that weekend, like I'd throw on like whatever team they cheered for. Like I just didn't really care. Um, which I know is like funny growing up from the South, but my dad's from Jersey and my mom's from Florida.
Okay.
And like neither of them went to like my dad went to the Atlanta Art Institute and my mom went to West Georgia. So like neither of them were like big football people either. So it just like we weren't like raised on football. But yeah, I like grew up playing soccer. Like I love soccer. Still, I think soccer is the best sport in the world.
So you think we're going to do okay without Nicky Saban? You think he's doing good with his Verbo commercials and his?
I mean, I like DeBoer. DeBoer has a winning record, and one of the most important things I feel like a coach needs to know how to do is win.
Yeah.
And I don't think it matters like at what level. I think there's a mentality that comes along with winning. Like you just expect that you're going to win, and that you expect that the players you have are going to perform. So I think that like he's going to be a great coach. I think anyone following Nick Saban, like it's a big shadow. But I mean, has been other people have like come after like historic coaches at other schools and then gone and like won championships the next year. So I think if the boys go out to play, then we're good. It just depends if they actually want to play football or if they're too worried about NIL deals. So we'll see what happens.
Oh, well, yeah, there's that. Well, let's talk about some music. You and I could talk football all day long because I love football. But talk to me. I always love kind of hearing, especially from artists that are a little bit younger than I am. What was the first song that you heard and just like instantly fell in love with? I guess any genre.
Oh wow, first song I ever heard. I mean, I grew up like my mom used to have the Eagles' great 50s greatest hits like on repeat. And the first song on that album is Take It Easy. And that's my favorite song of all time. So I would say like probably Take It Easy. And I mean Lion Eyes on that album, like I mean they're all like it's all classic songs. So like you can name you Desperado, you can name every single one. But I also grew up like love, like Otis Redding, Doc the Bay, like things like that. Yeah, like love Frank Sinatra, Sam Cooke, Whole Lot of Woman is one of my favorite songs. Love like Old Motown and like definitely more of that scene than anything else. We used to listen to like Doc Watson and like Guy Clark, which are more like flat pickers. Like I would say they're more bluegrass than anything. But the funny thing is like I didn't really grow up listening to country music, and I still don't really listen to country music at all.
And that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Like
nobody,
it's
nobody
yeah,
said you had to poop where you eat, right?
right. Yeah, no, it's some people get like really wide-eyed when I say that, but you know, I like really just kind of enjoy the more like alternative, more like folky. But honestly, like when I'm in writing mode, like I listen to R&B, I listen to rap, and I listen to classical jazz. I don't listen to I don't listen to anything that pertains to like what I'm working on.
Hey, you know what? It's clearly worked out thus far, so don't stop that. But
We're here.
I know we're here right now, but I want to talk to you about this connection that you have with your grandfather. I have a huge connection with my grandfather as well. And when I read that, I was like, okay, selfishly, I want to know more, but I really feel like it's this very firm foundation that was laid out for you from a very early age. So, can you talk to
Yeah.
me about your connection with your grandfather and how do you feel like that connection has made you a stronger songwriter?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he, was a professional poet and a journalist. And so he wrote, his entire life. And when we were little, started having us write, gave me a notebook when I was like 7 or 8 or so, to start like writing stuff. But then he actually passed away like a year later, year or two later. Yeah, so he passed away when I was 9, I think, or the very end of 8, something like that. But so while there was like, he kind of jump started things, I would say like most of the most of the time I spent trying to be cool like my dad because my dad played guitar. And so it was almost like my granddad kind of lighted, he lit the fire, however you say that. I should know how to use the tense of words because I write every day. But he lit the flame, I guess you could say. And but really then like it was like, I just kind of looked up to my dad. Um to kind of like continue everything. And I had different, I never took guitar lessons, but I took piano lessons a couple of years later from a guy named Jonathan Luttrell, who was just like a musical mastermind. Like, guy played anything and everything. And he really like helped me get like the baseline of like music theory. And then a lot of people don't know, play saxophone. So yeah, I played saxophone in school. I was in like jazz bands and concert bands and stuff. Um, and so I had like music teachers, a guy named Skip Stubblefield, who like, I hated like I was in marching band for 2 years and I hated it. I did sports, and so it always conflicted with sports. And I also didn't want to be in marching band. I was like, can I just play my saxophone like in a jazz band and like that be it? And I did it for like a year or two, and finally like my parents let me quit for sports. But even then like was still like really close to all those guys because they gave me such a good baseline of music theory and like showed me like a different side of music. And a lot of the I think a lot of the melodies that I learned through playing saxophone in band, like they come out because it's funny, most of the melodies I have are pop melodies. They're
Yeah.
not like, if you listen to them, it's not really like a country folk melody. It's a pop melody that you throw an acoustic guitar over. So but it all started from my granddad getting us to write. And then there's just been people who've kind of taken the helm since then.
I love it. I also read that you've written over 900 songs. How the hell did you narrow it down to what is it, 5 or 6 for this EP? Like, how was that process? I feel like it's picking like your favorite children, or in your case, picking SEC shirts out of a closet.
All right. Um, yeah, it was tough, you know. I mean, granted, we didn't go through all 900 songs. You know, some of those I wrote on napkins and they're like in a box somewhere, right? Like some of those songs never need to see the light of day
That
ever.
was my next question. Will you release those? Yeah.
There's some really good ones. There's some that are like still in the conversation for like, you know, as we're working towards a project release sometime next year. Like there's some things that like, you know, some songs might resurface and sometimes I take old songs into rights and I'm like, hey, this song is like may not be the best, but like it's got like gets a good skeleton on it. Like what can we do with it? So it really just kind of depends. But you know, a lot of like the narrowing down process was so I'd written 900 songs by last October. By January I'd written 50 more, and then by the time we finalized the EP, July, I think, end of July, and probably written because I had never co-written before, and I started co-writing in January, and so on top of co-writing and solo stuff, probably another 100 songs. So like we're well over the 1,000 mark now, and but we really kind of looked at those. I would say like starting in October, like when I met my manager, we started looking at songs then. Like I wrote Lily last fall. I wrote Leaving last fall. I wrote Cheyenne in April, I think. Yeah, it was April. And then I wrote Black Gold with Jonathan Hutcherson in April. And then My Memory, I think I wrote that one like I want to say I wrote that one 2 years ago. It was a while back.
So it kind of
So
been a nice mix of old and
yeah,
new.
old
Okay.
and new. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, just there's a lot. It's hard because they are. You're right. They're all my babies. I love like it's kind of a running joke in the team. Like I'll send stuff to the my publishing company and my label work like really well like hand in hand with each other to help figure things out. And I'll send them like texts like, oh, like this is a phenomenal song. I just wrote it. And then I look back a couple texts before that and it was another song that I was like, this one's so good. And
This is
so
it. Yeah.
I'm still trying to learn how to like not hype up every song, but I love every song that I write because like I pour my heart, my soul into everything that I do. Like I don't half-ass things. And so like I'm like never gonna like I would rather quit on a song than like write a bad song. I would rather be like, you know what, this just isn't it today. Like it is what it is. We'll come back in a couple days or whatever. But my manager is also really good at, and my producer, Lucas Bracewell, is also really good at like listening through songs with me. And like we'll listen through like 20 of them at a time. And it's like, all right, what are the ones that stand out? What do you like? What do I like? What do we think people will like? And it's really just trying to deliver the most like authentic, like raw music that we can. The stuff that like, it might tug at a heartstring, right? It's gonna like I want everything that I do to invoke some sort of feeling, whether it be good or bad, because I don't want my words to fall empty.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I know what Lily stands for. Not everybody knows what Lily stands for. So why did Last I Love You, aka Lily, why was that like the perfect, that's what we have to name it? Was it like a very conscious decision? Was it an aha moment? Kind of talk to me about that.
It as much as I wish I could say it was this big, like, oh my gosh, this, like this epiphany moment, like it really was just I was sitting here and um I was like thinking through the songs and I was like, like the whole purpose of this EP was to kind of give people a glimpse into like who I was and the struggles that I had and the things that I went through. I like, when I was a kid, I looked at like artists or actors, these people that like, you kind of hold on this pedestal. And I always thought they were this larger than life. Like they didn't mess up. They didn't do any wrong. It was like all these things. And I just like never, like obviously the goal is to keep growing this thing, and be as big as I possibly can. But I never want to be the artist or that person that like just is disconnected, where people look at me and they're like, oh, Christian's like, he's great, he doesn't do anything bad. It's like, oh no, I like mess up every day, a million times a day.
I forget lyrics on stage. It's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, they like, but I just wanted people to know, like, hey, like, there's like the skeletons are out of the closet. You know what I mean? You can see them, you know, because Lily's a song about discontentment, Leland's a song about insecurity, and Cheyenne's a song about running away and like not being happy with the man that I was, and you know, my memory is like detailing like the journey through all that, and then Black Gold is about me just, you know, not really having any self-respect for myself and like staying in a relationship and a job that was just life-taking. And like they're not things that you want to like, hey, my name's Christian, I'm all these things, like shout it from the rooftop. But I wanted people to know who I was and what I've been working through, so then they have a better idea of who I am now. And then I was like, you know what, like it's kind of like a last I love you to my old self. And so I just felt like that was such a fitting title for it, because like that's not me anymore. While those things still might creep in and those struggles, you know, we struggle with things throughout our entire life, but those things aren't me anymore. So
Well, that was awfully profound for this early in the morning.
yeah, it's 10:20, right?
I love it. Well, I love all the songs. And I think, you know, the way that you write these songs are so clever. And I really think that's what people want nowadays is I,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? I've heard other people say it, that country is kind of having this grunge era. I've heard, I'm not coining that. I've heard that from some other journalists as well. But people are, you know, want to hear what you're going through. And I think you doing that out of the gate, your fans are going to either connect with it or not, but you're going to find that right fan base that's
Right,
stick with you and going to expect that kind of vulnerability from you. But
right.
I can't believe we're almost to the end of the year. Like there's Christmas
I know.
decorations at Hobby Lobby. Like I'm not about it. Like it's still 90 degrees in Chicago sometimes. I'm like, put your pumpkins away. But what can we expect from you out of the rest of the year? And what goals do you have for yourself?
Yeah, for sure. Nothing's like set in stone yet, but the plan is at least one more release, like one more song for everybody. I hope I'm allowed to say that. If I can, I'm sorry to the team for saying that. But you heard it here first. So yeah, hopefully one more release in November at some point. But if not, don't be mad at me. And then, you know, I'm hitting the road in October. We're gonna do it like a week long tour. We're gonna do we have a festival down in Bainbridge, Georgia, and then we have my first headlining show in Decatur at Eddie's Attic, which I used to live a block away from, funny enough. So it's kind of like a full circle moment. Gonna play the 40 watt in Athens, which will be really fun. Roll Tide to that. And then I'm gonna play up in Charlotte and potentially an opening slot in Macon before all that. Still trying to figure it out, but a nice little Georgia run, add Charlotte to the end. So, but the rest of this year, like I'm just riding. Like I'm in the studio. I'm meeting new writers between Nashville and LA, you know, have that like good, you know, mix of some pop influence with some of that more folky. Like a lot of the people here that I write with, you know, they're not writing Luke Bryan songs. They're not writing Morgan Wallen songs, right? They're writing with Wyatt Flores, right? They're writing, you know, stuff like Flatland, you know, they're with like more so like that side of genres. There's no such thing anymore, right?
It's
Like
all blurred
yeah, it's
anyway.
all
Yeah.
blurred. But if you had to, I'm writing with more of the like alt country type. What I do, the people that write what I do, that's just who I've like connected with, and there's those people just kind of. I write so much different than Nashville. Nashville, like a lot of people walk into a room, they're like, "What's the hook? What's the title?" And I walk into a room and I'm like, "Hey, this is what I'm feeling." So like, I'm just gonna start like playing my guitar, and like whatever comes out comes out. If we like it, we like it. If not, like we'll move on. um and I've found that that's just whatever comes out is what I'm feeling, and that's what I want people to hear. So, you know, bunch of writing, trying to find kind of that like core group of people, because I mainly write solo, you know, like the EP, one song had a co-write, and it was my buddy Jonathan Hutcherson, and he was one of the first people I wrote with. So I take my music really serious, and I take like the message really serious. And so I don't want to just write with a million different people just to like try and find one good song. I think that every song that we write is an amazing song, just trying to figure out what's going to connect with people. So, still making sure I'm writing solo a bunch, but also bringing in those people, because I'm not the end all be all. You know what I mean? There's still plenty to learn, and also just like having the friendship and the relationship and like someone to do it with. Like, it's not fun to do stuff alone all the time. So finding that healthy balance. And then, I would say the goals is just, next year I'm probably going to be really booked up with tour dates. I would assume my manager and the label had their way. I would never see my own house. But I love it. I love being on the road. I love meeting everyone. I love playing for everyone. And just like, I always tell people that I feel like God put me on the planet to write music and share songs. And so I get to write them all the time. And the second part of that's sharing them, and that's on the stage. So, yeah, hopefully we're rocking and rolling around the country, and, more people are hearing the music, and it spreads like wildfire. And, there's really not much more to hope about. I just, want people to enjoy it, and get as much out of it as I do. So
You're listening to